Okay, we're on air. What camera am I on? This is a disaster. We're starting here. Hello everybody and welcome back to a video all about how to actually build a gaming PC. This is genius. It's never been done before on YouTube. And in this video, we've got a multi-camera setup. We're going to pretty much walk you through the entire process of how to build a PC and get Windows installed. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be groovy. But most importantly, it is going to show you every single step, including all of the slow bits, the things that might go a little bit wrong. If there's a disaster, you will see it. This is the second PC I've built today. The first one, let's just say it went really well. When in actual fact it didn't, it was a disaster. But it will be fixed, and it was kind of fixed. Hopefully we'll have better luck today. But we're actually joined by someone else here today. If you'd like to come into the studio, step in. This is Chris. He is from Totally Dubbed or Totally EV.
That's right.
And you're going to be a guinea pig today.
I am indeed, yeah.
Do you like guinea pigs? Cute little things. I had one once called Pascal.
It makes me think of a PR called Pascal, but anyway.
I named it after Pascal Sauvage, actually, from Johnny English. That sort of era. That's when I actually got mine. So that was good. But yes, we're going to use you as a guinea pig. You've built a couple of computers, I think, before in the past, though, correct?
I have indeed.
So you're not a complete novice, but you haven't built, obviously, as many as...
Nowhere near as many as you have. And I don't know most of these parts.
Yeah.
So...
well, there we go. So we'll be explaining absolutely everything as we go through. Yep. And this is going to be a budget-friendly build, actually. Yep. So I've picked everything with the help of editor Carl as well, who was on holiday last week, stunning himself. Still getting paid.
Sorry.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So I think your mic's off. Ah. There we go. You're in. We've got you now.
I'm allowed in now.
Are you even plugged in? Is your mic plugged in?
I'm plugged into this one.
Oh, okay. Wait, what camera is that? Hold on, camera 3, let's try that one. Wait, there we go. Is that it?
I don't know.
Yeah?
Check this before we started.
Yeah, that's probably it. We probably should have done. Well, Carl can sort all of that and check, and you can tell me what camera he's currently plugged into whilst we actually get on with our build. And I should have told you this before we went live, but very unprofessional of me. There's a red light on those cameras.
Oh, right, there we go.
That's the one to look at.
We should look at that. Well, I like to look at you instead.
Oh, you're welcome to look at me. I know it's difficult to resist. But if you look at the camera when you're talking to the camera and it's got a red light on, you're golden. If you want to look at this one, then you'll look a little bit weird.
Show my lovely hands instead.
Yes.
There we go. Right, so should we get cracking?
We're crack on. So as I say, this is a budget-friendly build, and we're going to do this with pretty much the best value components you can get right now. And we've got a video coming live on the channel in around about a week or so, don't we? Maybe not even that, tomorrow, that goes through all of the best graphics cards that you can buy right now. Nice. In terms of value, but also in terms of performance and different things for different prices. And this was the champion, I believe. Ooh. This was the champion. I'm going to guess it's number 3 for the mic. Can you hear? Are you there?
Yeah, I think I'm still here.
Is it number 3?
Yeah, number 3.
Number 3. Okay. So, what did you learn about graphics cards?
I learned a lot about graphics cards when I was benchmarking them.
Yeah.
Basically, if you want price to performance, AMD is your king right now. Anything under £400, I think is our maximum, isn't it?
Pretty much.
AMD is what you want to go for, basically.
Yeah.
Nice.
6650,
is that because
67.
Nvidia's more in demand, do you think, or because AMD have lowered down their prices a bit more?
Yeah, well, I think AMD cut their prices a bit more. And
don't worry about that.
You've
don't worry about that. I'm going to hand you the graphics card that we're using today, the 6600.
It's very light.
It's very light.
It is very light. It doesn't feel the most premium, does it, in the world?
But you don't need. It doesn't need to feel premium as long as it does the job while in the PC.
Well, exactly.
I think that's all that really matters.
That's the thing. And what a lot of people don't really think about is you spend most of your time looking at the monitor, not what's in the computer.
Exactly.
So if it doesn't look quite as good as, you know, a more expensive card, or maybe it's ever so slightly louder or things like that, it's not the end of the world. Especially at this end of the market. You've got 3 fans. Why are you opening everything?
Because we just
we're talking about
we're getting everything ready.
We haven't introduced what the RAM is yet. Don't you worry, son. It's all good. It's all good.
I'm getting excited. No, but yeah, that's true. And then also, it's quite important to note, and as a monitor geek, it is quite good to see that you've got 2 HDMI ports and 2 display ports as well.
Well, this is something that a lot of people don't always factor in.
Yep.
Different cards, even different SKUs, so things like different RX 6600s for example, will have different ports. So if you're using an HDMI monitor, but maybe like I was at university, you're also using a TV and you sort of play on both,
Exactly.
then it's far more useful to have something like that. Whereas if you have 3 different displays that use DisplayPort, then obviously you need 3 display ports.
Exactly.
But
it's good.
It's a decent looking card though, and despite the fact that it's a little bit plasticky, I am actually a big fan of this one because it doesn't use that much power in the first place. It doesn't need that much cooling.
Yep.
Essentially.
I mean, it looks good, but let's see how it performs. But I think you know how it performs.
100 watts. Yeah, there we go. But this pretty much was the best overall bang for buck, wasn't it? You can buy this for how much? Can you remember?
About 240-ish.
240.
Right now, it's available now. Wow, that's good.
And that will play 1080p, 60 to 140 and pretty much everything, right?
Yeah,
it's only ray tracing that you're not
As long as you're happy with like high and not the ultra or the extreme. So,
or if you're like myself and play Counter-Strike.
Oh yeah, Counter-Strike. You're absolutely fine with that.
You should call this a CS:GO build.
This could be a CS:GO build.
There you go.
We're Intel CPU, which tend to be the best. How's everything going in the comments, by the way, guys? We should introduce everyone for everyone that's watching. Have we got anyone in the comments making some noise? If there are any problems with the stream, do let us know. By the way, what we had last time was everything was slightly too quiet and we didn't know till the end. And we could say that's our fault for setting up the cameras, but I honestly think it's your fault for not telling us. So
it's a two-way street.
Exactly. Try harder, please. The motherboard that we're using here is from Gigabyte. This is the B660 DS3HAX DDR4. That is a quality name if I've ever heard of one.
Well, I could raise you on that. You know that with monitor names, it gets to the next level.
Because you mainly do gaming monitors and things like that, really, don't you, on your channel?
And but I mean, monitor names or even TV names, they're ridiculous. So
ridiculously long. Motherboards usually are a lot better, but this is an exception. And I'll be honest, in terms of quality motherboard, this is at the lower end of the stack, quite literally. This is your bargain basement motherboard, which is absolutely fine for building a gaming PC with more entry-level parts. Because if you spend 3 times as much on a motherboard, I can guarantee your frame rate's essentially going to be the same, and you've spent loads of money on something that you don't necessarily need. The only exception would be if you know you're going to upgrade later to something like an i7 or i9 processor, then the VRMs and the general cooling at the top, you might find that it can't pump as much voltage into the processor. This is very technical now, isn't it? And you might find it might not actually be able to cope with that much power as well, which is typically what we're looking for with a more expensive motherboard, along with all of the other features. But the main thing really is that you want it to not only support the CPU, but actually be able to run it with all of the proper power.
I guess it might be relevant for people looking at budget builds, but overclocking headroom, or if you can do any overclocking whatsoever.
Yes, so this is a B series motherboard. So B series motherboards don't support overclocking the CPU directly.
Okay.
But you can usually change the power limits, which is kind of allowing it to overclock itself anyway.
Right.
So you have what's called like the default Intel limit. So let's say this particular chip, I can't remember what it is. It's probably like 100-ish watts.
Yep.
Sounds about right. Might be 65. Can you remember? It's around about that mark. Let's just let's call it 100 watts for now, right? With this CPU, and with some motherboards, you can actually change it to take that limit away, and you can pump more power in, and then you'll find that this will self-overclock itself, even though you haven't necessarily told it to.
Yep.
Whereas if you go for a Z series motherboard, then you can actually manually change the clocks, the multiplier, all of these things, and sort of you have a lot more control and you can get more performance. But actually, with these motherboards, you can still overclock the memory, which is arguably more important for most people that don't almost want to overclock.
Sure.
Because you can put some faster memory in rather than the default processor, the default memory speed that will be dictated by your processor, and then you can get more performance, especially with Ryzen. That's actually pretty important.
Okay, cool, that's good.
But yeah, this is the motherboard that we're using. I'll put this on the overhead, and you can continue your story.
No, I was just going to say, in terms of like actually overclocking, for me, I've got i9 9900K.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I actually have got it technically underclocked. I've got it running across all cores at 4.7 gigahertz.
Okay, what's the reason for that?
Heat. Actually, just purely heat.
What, to make it cooler?
Bring in the heat. Yeah,
this is disaster. Take that.
It was hitting over 105 centigrade.
Yeah.
So it was getting to its
high.
TDP.
Yeah.
So Is that good?
That's perfect.
Lovely. Look at that.
Magic hands.
ASMR. Anyway, so yeah, it's. I decided to underclock it at 4.7 gigahertz, simply because the performance differences in game made no difference.
Yeah.
From 5 gigahertz turbo overclock to 4.7 across all cores, running average of 65 to 70 centigrade instead.
Yeah, there's so many different things and tweaks you can make to processors if you want. Most people, especially at this sort of, it's there, yeah. The lens is so big on this, I can't always see the light. Yeah, there's so many tweaks you can do. You can always get your rig to be really personal to you. So you can use automatic overclocking, or like you say, you can customize it a little bit. I think the rig I've got over there actually is old school now. It's an X299 rig.
Old school. In your terms, probably.
So I think that one, the CPU, I've not only overclocked it, but I've synced all of the cores, which you don't always need to do. But with processors like this, usually 1 or 2 cores, they can boost slightly higher than the rest, which can give you more performance in games, and it's a really nice feature. But because that was more of a productivity PC, I actually lowered down the maximum core clock of like a couple of cores, in order to sort of bring them all up so that they could all be a little bit faster. So it is going to depend on what it is that you want to do.
I think I did something similar to that back in the days.
Back in the day.
Back in the day. i7.
How old are you? 40.
Coming to no. Yeah, no. Back in the day of was it i7 3770K?
Right.
Delidded that. Did the whole shebang. Yeah, delidding. Is that still a thing nowadays?
That is still a thing. This was meant to be like an entry-level how to build a gaming PC.
Let's not talk about putting
and we've gone into delidding. Delidding.
So,
yeah, it was, what was it?
It's cool though.
CLU. You put what was
we
it?
don't need that. This is the stock cooler, I probably should say as well. So if you buy a more entry-level Intel or AMD CPU, you get one of these, and they go on top of your CPU. They keep it cool. The downside is they tend to be a fair bit louder. So if you do have a little bit extra money, it's worth upgrading to something like this Hyper 212 that we are going to be using. But if you want just to save as much money as possible, stock cooler is a great way of doing it because it comes in the box anyway. So you just upgrade it when you get your next paycheck, really.
This is very Marcus, just to let you know. RGB written on the 212.
You're very anti-RGB, really, aren't you?
My PC build is completely like blacked out, and there is not even...
Not a single smidgen.
There's no means of actually looking into the case. So when you're talking about like build quality of that, I was just like, I don't care.
I feel like a lot of people watching despise you.
No RGB.
But then,
where's the no RGB?
They're like maybe 10-20% of people will be like, he's the man, get him in more often. He's the one.
Yeah.
CPU that we're using. Right. Yeah. There's 2 options that we have on the table here today. The best value is this, which is the 12400, pretend it's the F, 12400F. The F essentially means that it doesn't have an integrated GPU inside it, so it costs about £20 less normally.
Which is good.
And you're not going to use it if you have a graphics card anyway, unless you're doing like Intel QuickSync or something like that. But generally, for gaming, you don't need it. So you save some money by getting the F. This, at the time of filming, is about £150, £160.
Okay.
And price performance on this is phenomenal. It's 6 cores. It's got plenty of headroom for most games. Unless you're using a really high-end CPU, this is the one that you want to go for. Okay. Except for the fact that that's 12th gen. So that's old, right? Intel don't want you to buy that anymore. They want you to buy this instead, which is the 13400F.
So what's special about this one?
That's a very good question.
You just look. You had
picked up the wrong one. There we go. The 13400F. The difference with this is that it has a little bit more performance. So let's say, I was looking at some benchmarks earlier. Let's say, assuming there's no bottleneck with the graphics card, which there will be, but more on that a little bit later, you could get 160 frames a second with this CPU. Okay. This will probably get you about 185, maybe 190. Okay. So there is a fair difference, but you have to be bottlenecked in the first place for that to come into play.
So as in like the GPU's bottlenecking the CPU?
You have to be CPU bottlenecked,
CPU bottlenecked
in order for this to make any difference.
Got it.
So if you put an RTX 4090 or like a RX 7900 or something like that in your rig, and you use these CPUs, this one is going to be worth buying over this one because your limiting factor is not this, it's the CPU. Whereas for a rig like this, in the vast majority of games that you're going to be playing, it's actually going to still be dictated by the graphics card either way. And the problem with this is twofold. Firstly, This is more expensive. This is about £210 at the moment.
Ooh, so it's like
which is a
considerable.
massive difference. But 150, 160,
massive.
200, 210, about £50 difference.
Yep.
And also, if you're going to use one of the cheaper motherboards, like the one that we have here, this one from Gigabyte, this doesn't have any USB BIOS flashing utility capability, I don't think. He says that, looks at it. I'm fairly sure it doesn't. There's certainly no port that says BIOS or anything on it.
Well, I mean, there's a red one there. I don't know what that is.
That just is USB 3.1, I think.
Oh.
So it's faster port.
Why have it gone red? It used, well, it's blue. Oh,
The
no,
blue
it
was
blue
was
3. Yeah.
Red is 3.1.
Then they put black. Black was 3.1
That was black was 2. Don't worry about that.
No, there was black at the anyway, go on.
Point being, both of these reasons mean that actually going for the 12th gen, I think is going to make more sense because you can save money on the motherboard, save money on the CPU, and to be honest, if you do actually want to go for a higher end processor, I would just recommend going for the 12 or 13 600K if you want to step it up.
Right.
I'm not sure at the moment that the 13400F is worth going for because it sort of sits in that weird middle ground between the two where you spend quite a lot more to get not that much more performance when you can spend a little bit more again and get loads more performance. So I would actually recommend going for the 12th gen version. That's the one. 12th gen version. Here it is. Ta-da-da. Go for the 12th gen version and then a little bit later just swap this out for, like do a BIOS update with this chip and then you can swap this out for like an i7 in like a year's time. I mean, you get a used one, right? There's more performance upgrades to be done with this, and this is something a lot of people will say, why don't you go for the Ryzen platform? Then you'd need DDR5, more expensive, AM5 motherboards, more expensive, and there's still upgradability here if you're looking at a mid-range chip. It's only if you're going for a really high-end chip on Intel at the moment, the upgradability is basically none.
But then in terms of, you were saying about the specs in terms of what you can get between these two.
Yeah.
Is there anything in terms of spec-wise that's actually different? Is it because it's running like a higher core clock or a boost clock? Or is it got more cores or less threads? Or
correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there are some extra efficiency cores, which is going to help you in productivity. Okay. So let's say you want to do some very basic entry-level streaming, or you want loads of tasks open at the same time whilst gaming, then that's where the 13400F would probably beat it out. Okay. But in pure gaming scenarios, actually it doesn't really make too much difference. And some games do actually get confused as well, even still. With the efficiency versus like performance cores of the Intel generation. Shall I zoom this bad boy in? You're going to get some camera wobble.
Love it.
Well, I don't know.
That looks good.
It's not bad, is it? People, you can deal with a little bit of wobble. People like jelly. It's all good. So we're going to gently line this up with our slot, like so. And then we're just going to press this down. That's normal. That I know that worries people when they see that. That is normal. That's meant to happen.
I was literally just about to say about the plastic cover that people sometimes it will come in different variations, but.
And then that's your CPU installed.
Very good. Very good.
That's your CPU installed. Next is going to be the RAM, and you can open this because you wanted to do it earlier.
I was so eager of opening this RAM.
I'll show people what it is then.
Oh, okay. So it's Corsair Vengeance LPX. DDR4, 2 times 16 gigabytes, so 32 gigs. That's quite a lot.
Yes, so the reason is I don't recommend people buy this one, but it's the only one I have. Basically, LPX is the cheapest way to go, and you can get a 2 times 8 gigabyte 16 total kit with 3200 megahertz speed for like £45.
Oh, wow.
Whereas the RGB kits that are slightly faster do tend to be around about £60, £70. And this is essentially the same, right? This is obviously going to run faster, it's more capacity, but just for illustration purposes, we can use this. But LPX also has the benefit of being very low profile. So if you want to have either a small case and an all-in-one liquid cooler, or you want a very large tower cooler, this is going to be great because it's not going to get in the way, or at least it's going to be better.
Low profile ones are always good. But I was just what I was looking at in terms of the camera.
Wow. Where do you want? What do you want?
Just to show over here. I think
you want to go here.
Has it got like some sort of like film on top of the Vengeance LPX? I'm not sure it'll appear on stream.
Yeah, that's just a little cover. You can take that off if you want. But I've used this countless times and I never have. But it does actually annoy me that you've got so many different like protective plastics on all of this stuff. It's completely pointless.
You've got the satisfactory
You've got an eye for detail there, Chris.
Well, you know what? It's more the fact that if people are building the PC and they have it in their computer, it might get hot and it might melt potentially. It shouldn't because it's got heat sinks.
I know what you mean. You should always take plastic off but sometimes it's easy to miss. Like sometimes like fan stickers and things like this also have bits of plastic on, and they're very easy to miss, bits of motherboard and things. When it comes to actually installing the RAM, it's very nicely color-coded for us here, these two grey ones, but you do want to use slots 2 and slots 4.
Well, I was just going to say, doesn't that not depend in terms of the motherboard?
No, I've never come across a motherboard that is different to that.
Really? Okay.
Technically, I'm sure there are some motherboards that will be different, but I've never, ever, ever come across a motherboard in all of my years and builds on YouTube where it's different.
Challenge
so slots 2 and slots 4.
accepted. If someone in the chat could point out their motherboard that has a different channel configuration as an A/B slots, then that'd be great.
I swear on my motherboard,
Ooh.
I have never come across
I'll get on the phone.
a difference.
We might want to explain why you putting them on those slots.
Would you like to?
No, you can do it.
Okay. Essentially, it's just the way that the CPU is wired up to the motherboard itself. So if you imagine that this sort of connects to the memory, in order to get the full speed, you've essentially got this channel, or you've got 2 different channels, and that channel is this, and it combines together. Whereas if you put this in one of the other slots, then you're actually only getting single channel memory, essentially. So you're only getting half the speed. So in order to get the full speed, let's say this was a 3200 megahertz kit. This is 2 times 1600. Whereas if you put it next to each other, you'd be getting 2 times 1 times 1600.
Yes, yeah, that makes sense.
Kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I think it is worth pointing out that, I don't know, from my experience, it's always better getting, say, for example, you've got 16 gigabytes that you want to fill. It's better getting 2 times 8 rather than 1 times 16. That's true?
Yeah, I would never use a single rank of RAM.
Right.
Unless you were trying to sort of save as much money as possible.
Yeah.
And let's say you're going to buy one 8 gig stick, because that's all you could afford.
Yep.
If it was going to be for like a temporary measure, that would be fine. Or if you're buying a motherboard that's only got 2 slots, yes, then it might be worth buying 1 single stick of RAM, as long as you know it's a very temporary measure. Because like you say, you're losing performance. It's just, it's not worth doing. How's chat doing? We have not spoken to the chat at all in this video, and I feel so bad. So Carl, I'll turn your mic back on, or has it been on the whole time? It's been on the whole time, you're good.
Okay, yeah. We've got a lot of chat, we've got a lot of questions coming in.
So who we got? Come on, give us some names. Who we got?
In the middle of replying to Lisa Sargent. They've just, you might as well do it for me. Yeah, I'd save me doing it. They've got a B350 Strix motherboard with a Ryzen 5 1600.
Right.
They want upgrades to either a 36 or a 5600.
Yeah.
Obviously.
I assume they're supported, aren't they? I know they originally...
That's what I was about to say.
Check the individual support on the motherboard.
Yeah.
I think you're okay, but
if you can, I think you do lose support for like 1st and 2nd gen, I think. So I think if you use a B350, use a really new BIOS, I think you lose support for 1st and 2nd gen Ryzen. So if you do go that route, you will lose support for your existing processor. Yeah,
you just double check the support, because I know those motherboards were sort of borderline.
Yeah, guaranteed you can go with B350 up to 3600, no worries.
Yeah.
Without losing out on anything.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
I need to introduce the SSD. Get some comments ready. Give me some more names, but we need to do SSD now.
This is NVMe.
This is NVMe. This is a mid-range sort of SSD, really. This is actually, I looked at it earlier, this is a 512 gig SSD, which is a little bit low, but for a budget-friendly PC, it's fine.
512? I think that
this was about £35.
That is good.
£35.
That is good.
It's not going to be the absolute fastest. It's up to 3300 on the reads. What's this one called? It's from Lexart, the NM620. They sent this out a while ago. I can't remember if it was some sponsored stuff or not, but it's obviously been in the studio for a while. But it makes sense at the moment. The thing is, right,
so cheap.
I never tend to recommend specific brands with SSDs, and this is always true, because while there are always going to be exceptions and ones not to recommend, all of the good ones are always fluctuating in price. So let's say I recommend, I don't know, you buy a Samsung 980.
Right.
Well, that might be great now, but next week that might go price-wise a little bit higher, and then one from Seagate might be on special. There's always loads of SSDs on special. So I wouldn't say specifically buy one SSD, just make sure you're buying one that has a fast speed, or get the fastest speed that you can at a given price point. And don't be afraid to buy one, not necessarily from a brand you never heard of, but if you've always had a Corsair SSD, you don't need to buy a Corsair SSD next time. Do obviously shop around and look at some other brands.
Do Corsair make SSDs?
Oh, they do indeed. I mean, they're sort of sub-branded. I don't think they actually make the memory modules.
I wonder who does. My guess is going to be Samsung. Or Kingston.
Is it Micron? I can't remember. Who? Corsair.
Yeah, I think they're Micron.
Yeah. It varies, doesn't it?
Anyway,
I don't want to give bum information out on the show. But installing this is very straightforward. You just drop this down into the slot here.
I would like to say something for those people who are potentially installing it for the first time. You might have a cover that goes over here, and some motherboards have like a thermal cover.
Yes, so this is very much a cheaper motherboard, so you actually don't have anything like that, which is going to limit you if you're going for like a really high-end SSD. You would need to put heatsink on it. Though to be honest, I think in a motherboard like this actually should be okay.
Absolutely.
Like an entry, not a mid-range Gen 3 drive should be okay, but if you're worried, you can always buy heatsinks online for, relatively speaking, not that much money.
I actually did some digging about NVMe heat spreaders and if they're worth it or not.
Well, originally they weren't. They were a bit of a con, but now they are an absolute necessity. I've had SSDs break from overheating.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Is it because what they've got faster read writes? They operate at a higher temperature.
They get blooming hot.
Okay.
Like Gen 4 ones especially, and I don't know if you've noticed, but Gen 5 SSDs were announced.
Okay.
But they haven't actually materialised yet, even though they were meant to come out last year. And I think the reason for this is just because they're producing too much heat. Could be wrong. Could just be availability or something like that.
Have you seen the heat sinks for them?
Well, this is it. I mean, the ones that are sort of coming out leaking have really big heat sinks on. So I think they're sort of trying to get the thermal solution to catch up with what they actually need. Because they don't want to just, essentially have a SSD with a fan strapped on it. They want something to be elegant.
I think the most important thing for you, or potentially your audience, is do they have RGB lights, these heat sinks?
They don't do them so much anymore, but they very much do exist.
Opportunity, whoever's watching.
Do you want to know what I've got in my magic drawer?
Get the RGB SSD.
Hey, well, don't. What are you doing? What are you doing? Don't give away. No spoilers. Wait, in this.
In case you guys are wondering, he's going through some drawers with like loads of.
Look at that.
Effectively.
This has only ever come out in live streams where we've had a little giggle. It's never actually been used on the channel.
V color.
And that one as well. Look, there you go.
M.2.
There you go.
It was used in the fractal pop build.
Maybe show it on camera 2. Look, press the camera 2 button. Yes, there we go.
Oh.
There you go.
I remember that white one had like issues with actually overheating from the RGB.
Did it?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Great though.
So yes, the reason it's a bit of a meme is because this isn't actually an SSD. This is just an optional light to put on your SSD.
How do you put it? Oh, you just.
How does it hook on actually?
You just lose the slot, don't you?
We can put it on if you want. There you go. Look, this slots in like this. Like,
oh, it's not even. Oh my gosh.
Like
okay.
It slots in here.
That's no. I'm vetoing that in every sense.
This is very not you.
No.
Can you install this for me?
Yeah, sure.
There's no screw. There's no screw.
There is.
No, there's no screw.
Well, okay, we can imagine there was one.
Yeah, if that's what it would look like,
But that's not actually on the SSD.
No, it's just drawing power from the slot.
So it's using one of your slots to give you RGB lights that you don't need.
Well, it's just if you have an empty slot and you want it to look better, that's the point.
Carl, have we got any anti-RGB commenters?
You can set up a poll if you want.
Oh, yes.
Do you want to do a poll?
Yes.
RGB or none?
So I'm non-RGB team,
or
you're RGB
maybe
team.
put an option in the middle, which is like, I don't know, I don't mind. Yeah, call it meh.
Meh.
Or maybe, would you pay extra for RGB lights?
Well, people buy all sorts of things.
Yeah.
So I think that's already that's a given.
True.
Sorry, I love your chat, Chris. I'm always conscious of time and. Have you watched IT Crowd?
Yes.
You know when Moss has his trousers on, and he's doing the video, and it's like, I'm really sorry. I've just got this desire just to move on to the next topic. That is me.
Right, let's get on.
Let's
get it on. As was it Marvin Gaye?
You had one job.
What was the job?
Right, which was to put this fan in.
I did.
Look at the logo. It's upside down.
But it doesn't really matter. It's drawing in air the right
Doesn't
way.
matter, he says.
No one really cares.
This is perfection. Anyway, we will leave it because of time. and at the end I will be slagging you off. So there we go.
Is it in the right? Is it like in the right? Yeah, it is the right position though. That's
it's fine. It's just the logo's upside down,
but
which upsets me.
Nobody cares about that logo.
Nobody cares about the logo.
Nobody
okay,
cares.
let me know in the comments
Brand deals.
if you care about the logo.
Nobody cares. The thing is, actually, what you should care about is how it's positioned.
Capsized.
It's capsized. That's exactly but it's more importantly there is some arrows on fans for those people who are not aware, and it shows you the direction as to
what way they're blowing. Not all fans actually do that. Of course, one of the few brands that does.
Really? Don't all do that? I thought that's been around for like 10 years. Like plus 10 years.
You'd be surprised.
There's quite a few people that do actually care about the logo being upside down.
Yeah.
Like at least 7, 8 people volunteered saying I care.
Yeah, exactly, Chris. So there you go. But this case is the 4000D Airflow. And this is still one of my all-time favourite cases because it's a great size, it's not too big, comes in black, comes in white, comes with a couple of fans that are useful for a rig like this, but are cheap enough that you can replace them if you want something a little bit higher end. Usually you can find this for around about 80 to 90 pounds. If you're paying over 100, don't bother, it's overpriced, it should be less. You can put RGB fans in it at the front and then still see them because it's mesh on the front. It's very easy to build in, and just all round it's easy to manage. Really big fan of this.
Did you do big fan of it? I see what you did. Did you recently?
This isn't Cooler Master. There's no 200mm fan on this.
Did you recently do one of like a white build? There was like a PC that was like all white with. It looked really cool.
Yeah, that's in the other room on the floor.
But it wasn't this case then.
No, there's a few white builds. There's a half a disassembled white build over there.
Right.
There's a fully assembled white build over there.
There's a white panel over there.
There's a white panel over there.
Chat, I did tell him off just before coming in.
Well, we needed to get the stream ready.
Well, it's not my fault.
No, whatever, man. Whatever.
Well, anyway, maybe worth explaining the I/O port needs to go in first.
That's a brilliant idea, Chris. I tell you what, I wasn't getting on to that. What is this?
It's an I/O port.
What does I/O stand for? Oh, quizzed.
No idea, actually.
Input, output.
Literally,
I think so.
Is it input, output?
Panic. I'm pretty sure.
I thought it was interface options.
There you go. I thought it sounds a bit more.
No. Maybe not. I thought it was input, output.
You know this. I've got an excuse.
I'll tell you what.
I
I was taught at uni it was I/O, which is
when you get
input,
taught
output.
at uni, doesn't mean what it's in
I know
real
that
life.
could be a load of guff.
Input, output.
There we go.
Bam, bam,
Genius.
bam. So
that is computer science degree, 50 grand of debt, worth it.
Well worth it.
Yeah. So what we're doing now is just popping this in the back. So the I/O shield will line up with this at the back, won't it, Chris? I am sorry if I interrupt you. I genuinely feel bad.
No, not at all. It's good. It's good. We need to be explaining what's going on.
We do. So we're putting the I/O shield in. That's going to sort of hug this. But actually, in 2023, most motherboards actually have it built in now.
Oh, really?
It was originally one of those like ASUS features that they were trying to sort of say, buy our motherboard. We've got this amazing feature, and obviously everyone's copied it. But you think it is kind of pointless. Why this wasn't? I don't know why this. I don't get it really. I don't. Why wasn't this like this from the start? Why weren't they made on motherboards? I guess it's because it has to be separated, so that you sort of don't get any conductivity. And maybe they didn't used to be able to do that on motherboards, but now they can.
I was gonna say maybe in terms of cost savings, in terms of drilling out those holes. I don't know. But anyway,
well, it's got to have something to do with cost, because
or else they wouldn't it?
Otherwise, like this motherboard would have that feature, wouldn't it?
True.
It's a very basic plate. Right. Ta-da! We're going to zoom out again now. This is our case, looking nice and fresh. Give it some focus. It was probably all right. It's fine.
Should we put the PSU in first?
No.
Put the motherboard in.
No. We'll get motherboard next.
Okay.
PSU?
PSU.
Okay, no, to be fair, that's a very fair question, because a lot of people do wonder about the order.
Is the camera looking at the computer still?
No, it's the one.
Me.
Oh, it's massive today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, there is no right or wrong way to build a computer. There are some things you physically can't do first, like put a graphics card in, a case.
Sure.
You can't do that. But like you say, if you want to put the power supply in now, nothing wrong with doing that. That's going to work absolutely fine. The reason I don't tend to do that first is purely because of weight and cables. Because if you put that in there now, it just makes it a little bit heavier. If you're using a power supply and you've put the cables in first, which is what I like to do because it's easier to connect the cables and then put the thing in as a whole unit. It just means that it would be harder then to do the other things. So essentially what you're trying to do is go for the path of least resistance, which does vary from build to build. Like actually you've reminded me, because I was going to put this in our case now, but that actually would be in my eyes the wrong order because we're using an air cooler. So it actually makes sense to put the cooler on the motherboard now, and then we can drop the whole thing in. Because my first build ever, I did put the motherboard in, and then I put the CPU in, I put the, different sort of SSD, all of this stuff, and I was doing it in what I would describe as the wrong order.
Right.
I got it working in the end, it just took a lot longer. So it's all about offering the sort of path of least resistance.
Sure. Okay.
But if you pick up that box, we need to install the cooler, actually.
Marcus is known for dropping stuff, and you almost dropped that.
I would never drop anything.
Sure. And there's a screw here.
Every single stream is why I do this for a laugh.
How
many flips?
Why do you, you juggle these ones?
Many.
Try those ones.
No, what?
Can we have like a...
No, we're not.
We need a banana for scale.
No, we're not. Well, here's the thing, right? As I've said many times on this channel, I am an expert at throwing and catching things because in a kitchen, when I was about 7 or 8, I used to annoy my mother all the time by throwing fruit and catching fruit. Okay. So I am an expert. So when I throw this in the air, I have absolute confidence I'll catch it. I've never dropped a graphics card, probably.
I swear you dropped one.
And it annoys people. And when people get annoyed, they leave comments, which boosts engagement.
Happy days. Look at that. Farming for views.
Yeah, farming for views. Should we move on to the cooler?
We should. What about the paste?
See, good question. Thermal paste either comes pre-applied on your cooler, or you do have to add it yourself. So if you're buying any used components, you will need to get some thermal paste. It's very cheap. It's a fiver. Just have some lying around, because if you ever do need to take your CPU out, then you will actually need to replace the thermal paste anyway. But this cooler is around about 40-ish pounds, sometimes 45, so it's a little bit on the more expensive side for a chip like this.
Sure.
But this looks really good, and I think that's really important when you're building a gaming PC.
This is how we like completely.
Well, that's one half of it, though, right?
It's so the cooling performance.
But the RGB adds about £5 to £10.
Right.
You can buy a version of this that doesn't have RGB, and if that's the way you want to go, save yourself some money. That would be absolutely fine. Yep. The main reason I recommend buying a separate cooler, even with something like this, if you can afford it, is just because of noise levels. Because the stock fan does make quite a lot of noise all the time. Not such a big deal in gaming, because the graphics card's going to be louder, but when I'm sitting in the desktop, I don't want to be able to hear my PC. And with this, you won't, whereas with the stock cooler, usually you will.
But from memory, the stock cooler, its thermal capabilities are a lot poorer than
this as well. But it doesn't matter for a chip like this because it's still within the TDP. Like, it's not going to overheat.
But then, on the flip side, you're going to be running the fan. I guess what you were saying, the fan will run louder because it's not cooling as well, and therefore the whole PC
it's a smaller fan. So the smaller the fan,
and the
faster it's going to spin, which makes more noise. Yeah, and there's less thermal mass. Yeah, basically on this, so this can absorb heat quicker to not only store more heat overall, but it can take it away from the CPU faster, thus stopping it from overheating. Because a lot of work is like, if you imagine you have a graph, would be like that, sort of spikes, and this can sort of take that away from it quite well, whereas a stock cooler won't be able to deal with like sudden spikes as quickly, essentially.
So also, some manufacturers provide the thermal paste in the box.
Yeah, I think this is one that actually might come with some, but as it is only a fiver, it's not a bad thing to have. But if you're buying anything new, it should come with some. I might have used it all up. Yeah, I might have used it all up.
So we need some paste.
Well, we need to get all of this stuff assembled first.
Well, yeah.
Leaking screws everywhere.
Do you know which, because you usually have, so these also, should we switch to the other camera so they can see that you've got different brackets?
Yeah, we will. Don't you worry. I'm just trying to work this out at the moment. You want to go main? All right, we can go main. That's fine.
There we go.
Right, I'll work this out. You're in charge.
Okay. So Carl? How are people doing in terms of, is there a poll?
The poll. You want to know how the poll's doing?
Yes.
There you go.
Which poll?
What do you reckon?
Which poll is it? Yes, there we go. Let mini thermal paste.
We've got 3 options: RGB, not RGB, meh. Who do you think's winning? With 60% of the vote.
We're on Marcus's channel. It's going to be RGB, isn't it? Why, guys? Come on.
Only 29% with no.
Okay, well, 29%. I'm with you guys. So.
back
A good
plate
third, I don't really care.
through.
Cool.
13% were meh.
13% went
Placed
there.
down
So,
on the box.
Wait, if we add 13% and was it 29%?
Yeah.
But we're still not there though. But
Yeah, it's
I'm taking meh and don't care as the same.
Oh, okay. Then, yeah, you're looking about 60-40 split.
Okay, that's better. I'm taking that. I'm taking that as a win. But is there any questions as well that have come in?
We're getting quite a few sort of questions I'm trying to keep up with whilst you guys are...
Are there any questions relating to the build? Is the most important question of all.
Regards this build,
Yeah.
not really.
Oh, that's
good.
People asking about
that's
you know,
good.
recommendations and things like that.
Which we love to answer, but we always do questions like that, usually at the end,
Yeah,
so we don't
because
interrupt
otherwise
the
it's
flow.
Non-stop.
Barrage. This is really helpful. Look, we've got all these different bits. And this is where I'd recommend looking at the instruction manual, but it's not actually obvious which one is which, because Intel 1700, which is the latest socket, does actually need slightly different screws. I think they're slightly longer, but the shape and size is basically the same, which ends up meaning that you get bits like this where it's really hard to actually tell which is quite annoying.
That is, yeah.
But
is it not marked?
It will be, yeah.
Okay.
I think this was either an e-manual or I've lost it, so we're just going to have to wing it, really.
Rip. Oh wait, it should line up with this, and this should be
So,
marked.
so this attaches on here,
right.
and then the cooler presses down on top of everything. So we don't need that. So that was the back plate for the old school Intel CPUs, or if you're going for AMD. And then we have these little brackets here. Which is the question. So all it is just one of the screws, I think, is going to be slightly longer, which is quite annoying. I'm going to say this is the one.
Okay. Good
On
luck.
the logic of this supports more CPUs, thus you've got adjustability. This is a 1700 only bracket, I think, which is why the screws don't move.
We'll see if you're right.
See if I'm right. But if you are going to be choosing parts for a gaming PC you haven't already chosen, then it is definitely worth making sure that your cooler is compatible with what you're buying. And in particular, AM5 and 1700 has changed the game a little bit. So make sure if you're going for the new AMD CPUs, you buy an AM5 compatible cooler. If you're going for Intel 1700 compatible cooler.
It's
but give us some
very
names.
important.
It's very important. But give us some names, Carl. Who we got?
Give some people some shout outs.
Please.
Let's go for Andy Martinez. He's been very active, been asking a couple of questions.
Yep.
Austin Mills has got a serious addiction to beans. He keeps
Beans?
He wants to know
What?
how many
No,
beans.
that is interesting. That's the most interesting thing I've heard all day.
He wants to know how many beans you can
what
fit inside this PC.
What type of beans? Because
He's not specified.
I like butter beans, but sometimes I get a bit bored. Recently got into chickpeas. Chickpeas are
In fact, a bean.
a winner. Are they a bean? I don't think they're. Let's zoom this bad boy in. Look.
Yeah, he's asked a few times. I think he just said he's about to go have some beans now for lunch. So I'm guessing
Lunch?
it's a few
Oh,
hours
he's in
behind.
America. Fair. I was going to say, is that mate? You
just to make sure it's that one, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
No.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm sat really far away from the microphone, aren't I?
What was that?
I'm sat really far away from
Oh, are you a bit quiet?
Yeah.
You got people complaining.
I just heard myself. It was a bit quiet.
No one wants to hear that.
How much is this build altogether?
Oh, that's a good question.
Good question.
Do you wanna work it out?
Oh, okay.
I don't think it will actually be too much because this was purely about maximum price performance. So other than the case that is maybe slightly exotic, everything else should be right on the money.
Exotic. I like
I'm gonna guess 750-ish.
There you go. That's the cooler. Oh, sorry. Apologies. You wouldn't have seen any of that. Here's the cooler. We've now got these little spikes.
Wait,
And we can. I know. I'm doing. The cooler will go on top like this. Line up with those screw holes there. I say that. I'm just checking. Are they actually going to line up? I think we're good. Yeah, we're all good. But as Chris rightly pointed out, there's something we need to do first, which is
apply thermal paste. Yeah, I'm just.
apply thermal paste. I was so confused. I was like, what's going on here? What's going on here?
Yeah, no, apply thermal paste.
You can explain what thermal paste is. I know you can do that one.
No, I can't.
Oh, come on. What does it do?
It tries to dissipate heat.
It tries to dissipate heat.
Tries. You can put ketchup on if you guys want. It can also
for all reasons, not just legal, you can't.
Oh, okay. Toothpaste. Yeah.
Yeah. No liability. Use anything other than thermal paste. You're on your own.
And yeah, don't copy some famous publications out there that did it.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you want to have a laugh, great, but I mean, you're going to make a mess and potentially cook your components. So I wouldn't want to do that myself.
This really stresses me out. I ruined a motherboard once by doing this.
Well, good thing I'm doing it then.
It is good, honestly. Do you want this? Screwdriver, right? Yeah. Because it sits so closely to some of these lines over here, and that's like the communication between RAM and CPU. Yeah,
you don't have much room for error.
It's just so painful why manufacturers do this.
What do you mean?
Because, well, if you're going to be, I don't know, putting in, or you've got, for example, the wrong bracket, and you try and push down on it, you can easily scratch it, and that can...
Yeah, well, the general rule with building a PC is, other than the RAM, that even then you still shouldn't go like crazy. If it requires force, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's hard to explain, because how do you explain the color red to someone that's never seen red?
True.
But levels of force in PC building shouldn't ever be like huge amounts.
That's a good point, yeah.
Other than, I say, RAM, as long as you've lined it up, needs a bit of a push. Sometimes power supply cables require a bit of a push. But if you're properly having to like really give it grunt, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
One we've had recently that has really annoyed Carl is the graphics card wasn't going in our system. And the reason was the case was slightly warped. You can see here, I think we've actually had to bend these ever so slightly so it would line up and actually go in the case because of like a tolerance, probably like pre-manufacturing sample or something that we had. So every time we do any AMD graphics card testing or graphics card testing on our AMD system, we have to bend these fingers ever so slightly so it actually goes in the rig. It's quite annoying.
That's crazy.
But that is our motherboard.
Just held it
I know, it's a tricky one, because on one hand this is fun and people can have a lot of fun doing this. On the other, is it really worth it? Probably not. But if it is secure, because this is the irony, if it's secure, you can do this. But then if it's not a very good test, because your motherboard's now on the floor.
True. And also, you can really hurt your hands with those radiators. Or your fingers, should I say.
Maybe you're delicate.
I am.
Fabric softener. Hand moisturiser hands, maybe. That's our cooler pretty much installed.
Yep.
All we need to do now is grab the fan. Would you like to do this? I've been doing all of it.
Sure, but you're probably going to tell me off, you're going to tell me off putting the logo the wrong way around, or the chat is going to. But anyway.
Well, don't.
So we are.
Just don't do it wrong.
So cooler there, fan there, please. This is a really easy one. It just literally sort of slides into place.
Is there two ways that you can put this?
No.
But as in
as it is perfect.
No, but as in, do you want to explain the fact that you have a?
This one is all out of box, ready to go. So as long as you're following the instructions, I've not actually changed this. No, not like that. No, we're good. So that just clips on in place, and you do get some extra clips in the box if you want to add an extra fan at a later date, and then that will go on the other side. And like I think you're sort of suggesting, the fan would then need to be able to blow that way.
Yep.
You can't just put it on the other side, because then they'd be blowing into each other, which my friend did once. And surprisingly, it didn't make as much difference as you might think. Like, I'm sure his thermals were a lot worse, but it didn't overheat or nothing.
Because it's just because we've got an exit fan on our main PC build, and
you've got an intake. So intake on the front, and then the exhaust on the back. So the air's going to sort of come in through the front of the case, out of the back, and you have a nice sort of system that just moves the hot air out essentially.
Yep, which makes sense.
Next step is just to plug in our cables. And this is very easy because there's only two. If you have a radiator, it can be a right pain in the bum. But you've got this little 4-pin fan header here. And they've color-coded this for us for the CPU fan. It is usually a different color to the rest. So you just plug this in. And this is what's going to give our fan some power. so that it actually spins, and the fan speed will be controlled, so you can tune it up so it doesn't run very fast unless it actually needs to. Then you've got this one, which is RGB. This is the 4-pin, not 3-pin addressable, so there's less effects, and you do have to make sure that you find the little arrow that's on here. I'm too generous. Let's show all
there
this
we go.
stuff off.
Nice.
So there's a little arrow. There you go. You see that little arrow on the camera there? That tells you what the 12-volt connection is. So you've got to line that up with the 12-volt or the arrow on the motherboard, which here is on the right-hand side. We've got B, R, and G. What do they stand for, Chris?
I'm trying to think of something witty instead of.
Or you buying yourself
blue.
time? Yeah.
Yeah, but
that is just RGB stands for red, green, blue. I reckon there's actually quite a few people that don't realise that.
really?
RGB, yeah.
No.
Well, no, because if you think about it, if you've never thought about it, you might be like, oh.
Yeah, but. Okay. Yeah,
We all have blind spots, Chris.
That's true.
We all have blind spots.
That's why you need a blind spot monitoring system. Car enthusiasts will know exactly what I'm talking about.
Right, we can now move on to putting our
Into the PC.
motherboard into the PC.
Cool.
How are we doing for chat, Carl?
Yeah, keeping busy.
I've not heard much from chat, so
No,
I think we need a new Carl. Old Carl was better.
You want me to just jump in? I feel like I'd be rude interrupting the conversation.
No.
It's different when you're on your own because you're just talking to yourself.
It's true. No, feel free to jump in. This is a lovely opportunity for anyone that wants to build a PC to ask any questions that they're worried about. Doesn't matter if it's silly, let us know and we'll try our best to answer it. But all we're doing now is grabbing our motherboard, just lining this up with the back of the chassis. Yeah, have we got anything going on in the chat?
Yeah, I've got a good one here from Jamie Nong. He's asked, out of all the PC components, which one would you say lasts the longest?
Case. Case usually, I would say.
I'd say power supply. It's quite a good one.
Well, I don't know what it is, but the PC I had in this very chassis before I took it apart, mere minutes before we did this video because I'm organised, and I'm using the wrong screw, that's a disaster, was a ROG Thor power supply. That is a kind of, not a rebranded, because they do a lot of things to it, but in some ways it's a rebranded Sonic. And that PC kept turning itself off, like spontaneously, and that could be the power supply. That would be my first port of call. Might be something else, but yeah, it kept shutting down and restarting, so could be the power supply.
I'm trying to think. My PC is 2011 build, which I've donated to my wife. It's actually a great PC.
How generous! I've donated it to my partner in the same house.
But she wanted a PC, so we.
Why don't you donate it to Carl? That would be nice.
Carl's probably got a modern PC.
No, he does. What graphics card do you have at the moment, Carl?
A 3070 Ti.
No. What graphics card do you have at the moment, Carl?
A 3070 Ti.
No. What graphics card do you have at the moment?
For editing, it's a 4090.
Ah, there it is.
See, there we go. But yeah, anyway, so in terms of those components that are still going, pretty much everything is still going.
Yeah, I mean, graphics
CPU.
cards and CPUs. CPUs are probably the component that lasts the shortest amount of time.
Really?
I've never killed one. Oh.
No, it just in terms of like it's not current anymore.
Longevity.
So people feel the need to swap them out quite regularly, don't they?
Yeah, it depends if you need to or not. Yeah, but in terms of what would last the longest? Yeah, I guess
it's got to be case.
your case, but it depends how you treat it. I guess if you're
are you kicking yours?
if you're raging and you're hitting your case, I don't know.
You are a bit of a rager, aren't you? Let's be honest.
I used to be in Counter-Strike. I used to be very annoyed at.
I'm a big ranger. I'm a big rager. Like even last night, so I've been playing Returnal, which is really fun.
Okay.
But there's like the first boss in it, and I don't know if you're aware of the concept, but it's kind of like Dark Souls in a way.
Oh yeah, okay.
That when you die, you lose everything and go back to the start.
GG.
But then it's like a dynamic map, and it all reorders.
Okay.
So imagine it's basically a maze. But every time you die in the game, the maze swaps around.
Oh wow. Oh.
And to get to this boss, not only do you have to get there, but you have to find weapons and upgrade everything. And yeah, I died. No, it wasn't even that. I died, and in the game, you can, if you find it, there's like a respawn machine that gets you like an extra go. Did that, respawned, ran all the way back to the boss, and it bugged and the boss didn't spawn, so I had to like restart it all. That got a rage.
That's, yeah.
What is going on in this stupid game? I'm not playing this anymore. This is a joke. Why did I start it? Yeah, that was me.
Oh,
but I mean, that's fair though.
Soft rage.
That's fair though.
That's fair, yeah, absolutely fair.
I had a friend once that actually, and I just love visualising this because it's friggin' hilarious. I think it was Modern Warfare 2. Got so annoyed with it. Think about how angry do you have to be to do this? Yeah. Apologies if you're watching. Yes, apologies if you're watching and you have done this. Like, fair play, I get it, but it's just, this is funny. So angry that you go, oh, I'm angry. Stand up, go to the Xbox, press eject, get the disc, snap it.
Mate, that's
a week later, buy the game again.
No, but actually, yeah. If he or she didn't buy the game again, then it's actually probably the best decision because that's what happened to me. I was playing FIFA and Battlefield way too much, and controllers got smashed because of poor netcode for Battlefield and for FIFA it was just pay to win effectively, or you got a good team going because you made your way through it. I'm looking at Carl in case you don't imagine because he plays FIFA, and you make your way through it.
Can you rotate this fan for us, please, because people are going to get upset.
And yeah, effectively what happened is I kept losing to like bronze teams while having like a.
Oh yeah, that would annoy me.
Yeah,
that would annoy me a lot.
Anyway, but yeah, but now in Counter-Strike, I am more often than not quite calm playing because I realise you can't teach people how to play within 30 minutes.
You're winning. Is that why you're calmer?
No, actually.
I will say...
it's age, actually. I'll be honest with you. It's just age.
I will agree with you on the fact that if you play a game competitively and then you walk away and come back, you can basically never really play that game the same again because you're playing at such a high level, but you're not as good because you stopped playing it.
Yeah, that's true.
And then it's just not fun.
Kid, you were great because you would get like 2.0 KD. You play it now and you get like, you know, half 0.5, and you're just like, this game is awful. I hate it.
Yeah, it's crap. I just need to bump in and now say that we are going to plug in the case connections whilst Chris is fixing his fan mistake. His only fan. That was wrong. We've got the power supply, or the power switch here. It says power switch on it. We've got power LEDs, and then we've got the reset. These plug in to the motherboard on the other side. So I will just feed these through the back.
I kind of purposely wanted to mount it again wrong, but if it wasn't for people in the chat, then I would have done it.
Well, I tell you what, when the stream ends, or when the stream's supposed to end, you can just host it yourself whilst changing that fan, and we'll be downstairs with the pizza that we've ordered.
Happy days.
How about that?
That sounds good.
We also have USB 3, this big thick one. We've got USB-C, which is this like silvery black one that kind of looks reversible but annoyingly isn't. And then you've got one that says HD audio, but these all need to be fed through to the other side. I'll show you as I plug them in.
I'm making a meal of this, to be honest with you.
Is there any beans on that pizza? Andy Martinez wants to know.
I don't think I've ever had beans on pizza, but I think I think there's got to be a way that could work.
I once had the limited edition KFC Pizza Hut pizza. It had gravy on it.
Oh no. Well, I had a Subway Christmas special many years ago. It was a full turkey dinner.
That looks okay.
Inside a sub, and that was actually really nice. Cranberry sauce and everything.
Did it have potato in there?
Probably not. Probably not.
Broccoli?
Some greens in there just to make it feel better.
Inside your sandwich.
Right, good. He's fixed the fan. Magical. I'll plop this down so you can see what we're going to do properly here now. We'll zoom it in. Zoomy, zoomy, zoom. Magical. USB Type-C plugs in here. Like that. USB 3 plugs in just next to it. I think we're caught on something. Yeah, there we go. Just here. And then we've got all of these little
fun.
tiny ones. You say they're fun. There's a system if you've got the memory
Okay.
to remember it, which is actually quite simple. Power is always at the top.
Okay.
And what's my system? Power is always on the top. LEDs are always on the left.
Okay.
Okay. So where does the power switch go? Not a trick question. If power's always at the top, LEDs are always on the left, where does the power switch go?
To the right of it.
And at the
top.
Top right. Magical.
That's very good. I never thought about this.
I've got the reset switch. Where's that go?
Next to the LED one.
Yeah. And does it go top or bottom?
Bottom.
Because power's at the top.
Power's at the top. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then do you only have power at the top?
Yep. Yeah, 'cause there's only up to a maximum of 4 to plug in.
I have 6. I've had 6.
No. Well, if you've got a speaker, but then that goes in a different block.
Oh, yes, you're right.
And then just to follow this through, prove the theory works.
Yep.
Power LEDs go where?
Top.
Top.
Right.
No.
Left.
LEDs always on the left. And it goes positive to negative. So if you're looking at it upright.
Do you want to show people what you're doing? So you can they can see.
Gone. Sorry, yeah, I'm plugging them in. They're plugging down the bottom. So I've got power LED down the bottom. Look.
I say that. Try and show people, but then
it's
equally,
honestly
it's
this is really difficult unless you've got a cameraman to show you. But it does tell you on the motherboard, and if you do remember my theory, then you are laughing because it's good.
Are you actually laughing though?
No, because these seem to keep falling out because I'm plug one in and then I put too much pressure on it and it comes straight out again. It's really annoying.
Mr. Power LED.
Mr. Power LED. That's my DJ name.
Power
like
LED.
Mr. Worldwide.
Mr. Worldwide. It's Mr. 305. Mr. Worldwide. Okay, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Oh, what was that? Hello there, son.
These floorboards.
Hello there. Sorry about that.
Wow. Love it.
See, that never makes it into the cut at a normal
There we go.
normal video, but not today. Then we've got our fans to plug in. So these are 3 pins. So they're plug into the same places. They just have less control. So they tend to spin at a minimum higher speed, basically. It's the main difference. Like you can't choose exactly what RPM you want it to do. You just generally give it some power, and then it sort of goes from there, really. People heard, did they?
Yeah, some people heard. Somebody just said, all that talk about beans.
Funny.
What did you have for lunch?
Not much. There wasn't really anything there.
No beans?
Bread and some vegan salami.
Maybe the vegan
Well,
salami.
here's the thing, right? I've actually...
Made out of beans.
I'm not a vegan, but I've started buying like the meat-free, like ham and stuff like that, because I find actually, unless you're having a proper thick ham sandwich, like like proper like carvery ham,
Thick.
it just you don't even notice it in the sandwich anyway. So I feel like I'm doing my bit by having the vegan salami. Honestly, they're so good.
I'll be honest with you.
Squeaky bean. That's what it's called. Squeaky bean.
But I'll
Not
be honest.
sponsored.
I'll be honest with you. If you're having proper ham, like good quality ham, then you will notice.
Oh yeah, I know, but I'm saying I don't.
But that's because you're not having good quality ham.
Because I'm not made of money. Come on. I mean, like £1.99 for the squeaky bean versus £2.99 for the real deal.
It's all about the Parma ham for me.
I do love Parma ham. That's true. Like actual DOP Parma ham winner. Right.
Anyway,
but this is what people do genuinely expect from this channel now. We have fun.
ham and beans now.
Ham and beans. All of the cables are now plugged in.
Woohoo!
So we've got just the one fan at the front here. Obviously, we've got our CPU cooler. As I said, we've got USB 3, USB-C, power switches, fan at the top left. Obviously, this fan that's actually there. HD audio. Only 2 more components to go.
Woohoo!
It doesn't really matter what we do next.
Does it not?
No, because what I would usually do is the power supply next and feed it all through. But because we've got quite a big case and the graphics card is literally right in front of me, why not? Let's prove my theory that it doesn't actually matter too much. The only times you run into issues is if you're in a smaller case or you need to then access something, because once you've put this in, it does make everything else harder.
Yeah.
But obviously, if you put this in, then you could say, oh, it's easier to do the power supply because you know where the cable needs to be.
Yep. Yeah, that's true.
Doesn't really matter.
The thing which really gets me is that at the top left of the motherboard, you have got the power to the CPU.
Yep.
And that one, it always annoys me.
So if you're using an air cooler,
yep,
tends to be okay. Whereas if you're using a radiator, always plug the cable in if you can before you put the radiator in, because sometimes you just can't access that.
Can't access it. That's true.
Graphics card RX 6600 is going in. This is AMD. This was our best value graphics card when purchased new.
You haven't got the slots out.
No, I have.
These.
I have. No, those I've done.
No, but you have to get these out first. It's screws.
Or is it at the top? Okay, no. So what it is? Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Apologies. I think on this motherboard, for whatever reason, the tops. Or is it? No, we're okay. You're right. Sorry, it's just thumb screws.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll take that back. Normally, you would remove these PCIe slot covers. This is where the confusion's coming, guys. You'd remove these PCIe slot covers, but because I've built on this case before, they're already removed. But I'm forgetting, as Chris is pointing out, that obviously we need the thumb screws still to be able to get this in. So Chris is right. I am wrong.
My OSD. My OSD.
On-screen display.
When you do too many monitors.
Graphics card.
Let's do graphics card.
Yes, so this is the Gigabyte Eagle version. It's a very good value GPU. And if you want to play any of the usual suspects, I would argue 99% of, yeah, that just needs blurring up. I'm in the way. This is a disaster. Team effort, though.
There we go.
Yeah, give that push in.
It's in.
Happy days. That looks nice, actually, doesn't it, that rig?
It does look pretty clean.
Clean boy. Yeah, if you're playing any of the usual suspects, things like Apex Legends, maybe a bit of Battlefield, even Cyberpunk 1080p, no ray tracing, shouldn't be an issue, right?
Yeah, as long as you're not ray tracing, 1080p, competitive settings, you know, FPS games, absolutely fine. Valorant's still something stupid, like 400, 500 FPS at 1080p.
Yeah, well, there you go.
CSGO.
Yeah.
Valorant's no match.
We played Valorant for a bit, and then I got upset because I was no good, so I stopped.
It's not a competitive gamer, that's why.
No, I'm not, and I used to be, and I'm really not. I don't have time to get that annoyed. I don't have time for that.
Anyway, PC build.
No, this is all part of the experience. People have to know if you get into PC gaming, and then, like, honestly, Apex Legends, I'll smash the desk at least once per game.
I remember we played together, and basically what Marcus did, he just ran off and did his own thing, and I had to like.
I cleared up your mess. Probably.
No, and
I made a mess and then failed to clear it up.
Exactly. That's it. You can see why I was struggling with this. It's properly.
We could get the proper tool.
Oof.
You call that a knife?
This is a knife.
All right, crocodile dandy.
Easy knife. Where are the scissors though?
I'm gonna sort this out.
Carl's honestly, he can't do anything right. He's lost the scissors.
I've got it. No, I've got it. Marcus, there you go.
The joke is.
I got it.
The joke is, Carl is honestly the best, and he would never hide the scissors unless there was a child and he was helping out.
I am the child.
Well, yeah, I mean,
being responsible.
Yeah, exactly. How do you hold scissors when you're walking?
Like that.
Not like that.
No.
Yeah. All right, overhead, please. Overhead.
I've got a quick question for you, Marcus.
No
It's
time.
quite a good one.
No time.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I'm
Sorry, Will. You've missed out now. Will Fitz says they want an OLED monitor.
Oh, let's go.
What do they reckon? Oh, this would be a good question for you as well, Chris.
To be honest, I've barely reviewed many OLEDs, so
Oh,
you
no, it's
probably.
not. There you go. No, that's it.
But anyway, go for it. What's the question?
The LG OLED monitor that we recently checked out. How bad is the matte covering?
Well,
Ooh.
I'll start by saying I looked at other reviews, including like Hardware Unboxed. They said it was okay, and I'm thinking, have I just got a weird unit? But I had two, because the first one, no fault of LG's, was shipped from like Korea or wherever it was, and it got damaged ever so slightly on the way. That's not a realistic thing, so I wouldn't include that in like bad packaging or anything like that. And I hated it on both models. It was just, I didn't think it was good enough. And I think, is that just matte panels? Is this just me?
No.
Am I so used to the QD OLED, which is glossy? Is that the problem? But no, because the monitor I actually use for editing is a matte panel that Alienware. fine.
Yeah.
So it had this horrible like moire all over it that yes is gonna be better if you've got a load of reflections, but then the problem was that the monitor wasn't very bright, like relatively speaking. It was only about 160, 170 nits at 100%.
What?
So it's not going to be the right monitor for a bright room anyway.
Wait, why it's at 160 nits? Surely that was capped at some.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because the irony is this is a new monitor that can go super bright. It can do like up to I think it's quoted for up to 1,000 nits. I don't think realistically it will, but
so why was it capping at 100 and something odd nits?
I think a firmware update should fix it. Probably just to longevity reasons.
Oh, okay.
I think in SDR it's limited to 200 as well, and then
limited 200 in SDR.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So I think the limit is 200, but real world, as I say, was about 160, 170.
I'll chuck it in the bin. I'll chuck it in the bin. I've only reviewed 200 monitors.
It was actually fine for this room. Like 100% brightness was fine, but the fact that there was no ability to go brighter if you wanted that, I thought was a bit naff. But in HDR, it was great. Gaming, it was really good. It was the best gaming monitor I've used in terms of like clarity.
Okay.
What was it? 160? No, 240 hertz, wasn't it? 240 hertz OLED. That was like whoa. There was.
Yeah.
Other than like a 500 hertz monitor, you wouldn't find anything smoother than that.
Yeah.
It was pretty phenomenal actually. But yeah, that matte coating was frustrating.
And heavy coating, I would not recommend personally. But anyway, that's just me.
This is it's personal preference. It depends on who you are.
True.
This is a semi-modular power supply. Brilliant way of actually saving yourself some money, because this has a semi in the fact that you've got some modularity, but then something actually prefixed. So the idea is, if all of these cables you are definitely going to use anyway, why not save some money, have these attached, and all the ones you might use. So every time they actually have to do this sort of modularity, it adds cost. That's obviously passed on to you. So this is a nice little middle ground. The only disadvantage with this is if you are going to upgrade to some custom cables later, obviously you then can't really do that as easily because you can't take these out. But unless you, and if you're happy that you're never going to have custom cables or you're going to use extensions, this is a great way of saving some money. This is from NZXT, it's their C650.
Now, another question for you.
Yes.
Upwards or downwards firing?
Firing? What Atmos speakers? Well, it depends what sort of Atmos setup you're going for. If you're going for like 7.2.2, then you want to get the tweeter and you want to sort of point it towards you a little bit.
Upwards or downward firing fan?
Always, pretty much always down. The only time you wouldn't do down is if it didn't have a vent at the bottom, but almost all of them do, or if you're doing like a quirky case that's maybe like upside down and part of the airflow is factoring in where the fan is. Or you've got, you're going to love this, an RGB power supply. In order to actually see the RGB, you probably want it facing up. But it depends on the shroud. Like this case, you could actually have, this case you could actually have the power supply facing up if you wanted to, because there's mesh.
Right. Okay.
Or there's air.
So you can breathe. Yeah.
But you'll find in a lot of basements on power supplies, they're solid. So if you had the fan facing up, you would quite likely overheat the power supply if you're running it at very high loads. Okay. Because it just won't be able to breathe properly. That answer your question?
It does indeed.
Was that a real question, or was that a for the camera question?
No, it is because I remember looking it up myself, looking at in terms of airflow and what would be best for a PC build.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, it's not going to make too much difference. It's just you're going to have cool air from underneath the PC that otherwise wouldn't go into the computer. All you're doing by using the air that's in your system is adding extra heat to the power supply that it wouldn't otherwise need. Yeah. The only upside of that would be it chucks air that is in your PC out the back.
Got it.
Okay. So you are removing extra heat from your overall PC, but unless you're sort of in a situation where you are a bit restricted with airflow, there's not really any need to do that. Okay. But you can get creative with it. Most power supplies aren't going to run into any issues with thermals, especially if they're well built.
Nice, that's good.
If they're terribly built.
Would you, so this would be for me, but also for the chat, would you recommend going for like silver or gold rated PSUs, or would you?
I don't really factor it in because when you're looking for a power supply, your requirements are usually wattage based, and you want one that's either modular or non-modular, or you want a particular brand.
Okay. And
at that level, you kind of get what you're given.
Okay.
I don't think it's necessarily worth buying like a platinum rated power supply just because of that. If you want a power supply that's maybe got a longer warranty, is better built, it will probably just so happen to be higher rated anyway.
Got it, okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So there's nothing wrong with going for one with a higher efficiency, but you don't often get the option. The only exception really is one, I know Be Quiet do what's called the straight power.
Okay.
And they actually sell a gold one and a platinum. And I think the only real difference is the efficiency.
Okay.
But you'd have to do an Excel spreadsheet to work out whether it was going to be worth it in the long term. You plot the efficiency curve, work out exactly how much power you're going to be using, and then go, yes, that's worth it.
That'd be, yeah.
But obviously you're not going to do that.
And then in terms of, maybe again for the chat, how would you choose, like you've chosen 650, that's 650 watt. How would you choose, or why would you choose 650 watts for...
What?
for certain builds, or why would you go lower or higher?
My teacher used to, like, if you used to say what, used to go, no, not what, he invented steam engines.
Oh dear.
Yeah. It's really simple, and I will illustrate this.
Oh, that gets cut out usually.
He's so mean to me, he cuts out all my funnies. I would just pick up your box, look online, and then see where it says minimum system requirements on your graphics card. It'll tell you what they recommend as the minimum.
But then that's just for the graphics card. What about for the entire
that's
system?
For the system.
For the, they're incorporating the entire system.
That will factor in you using quite a high-end CPU and using a lot of power. Because you've got to remember, what they're trying to do is give you a minimum that means they don't get returns.
I see, okay.
Essentially.
Interesting.
So they will usually overestimate how much power you need.
Right.
But there's no reason to ignore that.
Got it.
Because let's say you have a 650 watt like we're using here. That also gives you upgradability options. So if you want to upgrade your graphics card, you don't need to replace the power supply. I don't really recommend anyone buy like a 450, 500 watt power supply these days. The graphics cards just tend to be a bit more power hungry. So while you can make it work, for the sake of like 10, 20 quid, it's worth just getting a better one. And higher wattage power supplies, the efficiency curve usually means that they're more efficient at the loads that you're actually going to be using. So let's say you buy a 600 watt power supply, you are drawing 550 watts. That's usually going to be quite a lot less efficient than an 850 watt power supply.
Which makes sense.
Because let's say you're using a 90% load versus 60% load.
Sure, yeah.
At 60% load, they tend to be more efficient.
That's why you need your efficiency curve. You've actually got a voltage meter, just a wattage meter down there, which is really cool.
I bet I use it every now and then, but not all of the time.
It's very useful. Anyway, so let's get plugging.
Let's get plugging in. So we've got our graphics card is already plugged in. We have our CPU, our PCIe connection, ATX. CPU we just tuck at the top right-hand corner.
That's always a hard one.
Of the rig. If you're using a high-end CPU that's going to use more than, I think it's 150 watts, you'll plug 2 8-pins in. But as this is a lower-end one is absolutely fine.
Okay. Did you plug in the GPU already? No.
Not yet, no.
Okay. So the GPU is using a singular 8-pin, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Because these other ones that you've got behind are like, oh my gosh, that's 3 times 8-pin.
Yeah, graphics cards use a lot of power.
Oh my gosh. 3 times 8-pin. What are they on? And this one doesn't even have a pin. This is like, you have to have the adapter thing.
This is an RTX 4070 Ti, and that's got this new connection that is PCI Gen 5. It annoys me, this is called the 12 pin, but it's actually 16, because you've got 12 pins of power and then the sense pins, you've got 4. Right. So those, I don't think actually deliver any power, they just sort of help to control and regulate the wattage.
I cannot believe how many pins, this is just ridiculous.
Safety pins.
Safety pins.
Right, so we're going to plug this in now. We want it to look nice and neat. So we'll grab this 8-pin, connect this at the top, like so.
Satisfactory click.
That is a very satisfactory click.
Did we already explain that we put in the, oh no, we haven't put the ATX one.
No, I haven't done that yet. Try and neaten that up the best you can. This is why I say if you buy a custom cable, you can make that look a little bit nicer. We then have our ATX.
The humongous one.
Yeah, humongous.
And it's always tricky to like turn around. And sometimes if you've got a small motherboard on a large case.
Speak for yourself, mate.
All right, mate. It feels like you're like bending the motherboard, like when you're pushing down.
Yeah, but I mean,
like
that's one of the reasons that the standoffs that you screw into, they do help to secure everything, so you hopefully won't run into too much of an issue there.
It's those memes, isn't it, with the cable management, that you've got like beautiful cable management at the front and at the back it's just like a mesh.
Yeah.
Yeah, but actually lower end builds tend to be quite easy to manage because there's less cables.
Sure.
It's when you have things like RGB and fan hubs and connections, like Corsair ones are pretty bad for that. Lee and Lee I love. Lee and Lee are great.
I've never tried that.
So they actually now have, you saw him earlier. The white ones that you took apart that were in here before. You saw them earlier.
He was out in the hallway.
Yeah. The fans connect together, so you only need one cable that goes to them.
Okay.
And then that one cable does fan and RGB and goes into a hub. So you have a hub and then two cables to two blocks of fans.
Right.
Way better than having two cables, each fan, one for RGB, one for fan speed, on loads of fans. 10 fans, it'd be 20 cables. Wow. With a Lee and Lee system, that would still only be 2 or 3. Really, really good. Big
Very
fan.
Nice.
Big fan. Hashtag not spam.
They're going down.
Thermaltake have got magnetic ones, I think.
It's smart, isn't it?
A few others have got magnetic ones now as well.
Smart. Right, so that's plugged in at the top.
That's always, for me, that's the one that's always tricky, but yeah.
And that should be it.
Made it look easy.
That actually is our PC done. It's very, very chill today.
It is.
Because everything, as I say, there's not too much going on here, which is nice, makes a nice change. All I'm going to do now, if I spin it round so you can see, is just do some very basic cable management. But that's about it. There would usually be a hard drive cage down here as well, but I've taken this out when I built the rig last time to fit more things in. But like, that's it.
It's better when it's out, to be honest with you, like the hard drive stuff.
Yeah, unless you've got hard drive. The only exception actually is if you use them for cable management. You can stuff cables in there, they're quite good for that.
Yes, that's true.
There you go.
Look
Cable
at
management, easy. Maybe a cable tie just to keep it in place.
And these are the case ones, aren't they? They're like,
yeah,
they're pre-done.
They're all pre-done.
Very
And this
nice.
bar actually moves slightly further to the left as well. But I've got this here.
Was that to
there
block
you go.
out more?
There
Like
you go.
block out the rear.
Yeah,
Good
but I moved this when I put an ATX motherboard inside. But this you should see now.
Almost there.
Yeah.
It's the top, something's holding the top.
There you go. That should do it just about. Yeah. Ignore me. That's going in.
Carl, are there any other questions?
Yeah. While I'm struggling.
Whilst Marcus is busy doing that, would you recommend more than 2 fans for a build like this?
Nope.
No.
Unless you want it to look
End
good.
of.
No, there's just no need. Use the case fans that come, make your upgrades later, spend as much as you can on the graphics card and CPU now, because those are the things that are going to last you for a long time. There you go. There we go. Yay.
Just about, there we go.
We're in.
Finally.
So now what that's done is when this cable management bar look
that looks
a little bit
swish.
further over.
That looks very swish.
So I would never recommend doing this because it's bad luck. But if you put the side panel on now,
right,
that will shut really easily. But it's bad luck because as soon as you put the side panel on, your PC then won't boot and you'll have to take it off.
Well, let's
That's
test
the rule.
it. We just plug it in to see if it like turns on.
Yeah, I mean, what we can do, Carl, is actually, where's me? Hang about.
Where's me?
Hang about. Have we got HDMI, please?
There's one with the other monitor.
Cool. Oh, so what we do, look, this is very smart. This is pro strats. We get HDMI. It's always worth making sure that you get your HDMI connection, by the way, and plug it in to the graphics card. A lot of people will plug it into this, and obviously it won't work. This is what you use for integrated graphics, but that automatically gets disabled when you plug your graphics card in. So if you plug into there, they won't do anything.
I will say, however, if you've got an older PC, it doesn't actually disable it, and then you have quite horrific issues with BIOSes. But anyway, that's a different issue. Something to do with Windows and Intel.
Oh, hello! Don't stand on those.
Stand on the plug.
No.
Really?
Definitely not.
Oh, you're plugging it in.
Yep, so people can see.
Oh, that's very smart.
Yeah. Also, have you ever seen one of these? I hadn't seen one of these before. If you have a 1500 watt power supply,
No, I've never seen that.
it needs that.
That is a chonke bonke. Oh, do you want to show this overhead one?
Look at the size of this.
Wow.
Look at that. It's not a standard cable. Look at it. Freaking massive. I was blown away by that. It was really annoyed me as well, because obviously I had everything all set up, ready to plug in, and then my normal cable didn't plug in. It's really annoying. What else is going on in the chat, please?
Yeah, you got some other questions?
Yeah, well, I want to know, who we got? Who can I say hello to? Thank you so much for tuning in, by the way, so far.
What have we got here? Somebody said the plug looks like a little sad face.
It does actually, yeah.
That was Marcus's face that we went to plug it in.
Oh.
Good one.
Quick one here.
Uh,
why does it keep moving? This is the annoying thing about the chat, when it moves so quickly, it's really hard
Not yet.
to go back and find one once
Not
you've
yet.
seen it. Anyway, let's just say hello to a few people. Do you want to give some people a shout out, Marcus?
Happily.
Can
you find my yellow mouse somewhere? Oh, sorry, my lime green mouse. There it is.
On the desk. Do you want to say hello to, who have we got here? Trippy Views.
Trippy Views. Hello, Trippy Views.
Andy Martinez. I think he's been here the whole time.
Oh, we absolutely love to see that. Thank you so much for that.
John.
John.
So good they named him twice.
Yeah.
So nice they named him twice. Lenny to the Quantum. That's a good name.
Quantum. That's a good name.
There is actually a port that says BIOS on the back here.
We've got Trut.
So maybe there is some BIOS flashing. There is! This motherboard has Q-Flash Plus.
Woohoo!
So if you do want to go for 13th gen, double check this, but you should be able to do it. I mean, there's a Q-Flash Plus button on the motherboard, and it does say BIOS on the back, usually. I mean, I'm very sure, but I always have nightmares of people buying stuff and going, it doesn't work, it's all my fault. And I'd feel bad. But yeah, I think you can do that. Yes, sorry, I interrupted you.
Here's a good question. Somebody's looking at getting the same case, the 4000D Airflow.
Yep.
Has been told that they might have issues with RAM stick height and top-mounted radiator.
Oh. No. Depends what you've got, but
Dominator Platinum.
Why? Why have you got Dominator Platinum? Like, Dominator Platinum is like the, what's the right way of saying this? The waver. The waving sort of RAM. Like that it doesn't make any difference. If you want to show off,
Very showy.
You buy that. But yeah, that does cause issues. I have a feeling. Go look on my RTX 3090 PC build, and on that video I built in this very case, and I'm fairly sure I had a top-mounted. No, was that front-mounted radiator? You're right. Yes, that was a front-mounted radiator, and I used that. So
have we got a radiator that we can try and like stick in there?
I'm fairly sure. Yeah, Dominator Platinum in this case with a top-mounted radiator will cause issues. I think that's a fair assumption, actually, because you're right. I used a front-mounted.
I was going to say specifically with
if you front-mounted, didn't you? Because it just squeezed in.
Yeah, I think you would. You might be okay, but
just front-mount if you.
I wouldn't risk it.
Got it.
Yeah, I don't like front-mounting. Anyway, shall we press on? This is the important bit in the video where I need to say that the PC Centric mouse mat is here and is about to ship. We're almost there. Okay.
Let's get it.
Quantities are limited. We do still have some left, but once they're gone, they are gone forever. It's a little bit annoying. It says on the website pre-order, but it's actually not. The pre-order has passed. So depending on when you're watching this, they might be all gone. So if you want to grab one, and this is the best thing you can do to support the channel, you can grab one. You are actually genuinely quite impressed. Hashtag no ad. If you want to slate it, slate it.
I am really picky with my mouse mats.
You're looking on camera. There you go. We're back.
It's really, really impressive. I'm not. I'm genuinely not kidding you, and not because.
Do you want me to enlarge the script a little bit?
And not because I know Marcus, but I would actually get it myself. It's very snazzy looking. It's really well designed, and more importantly, most importantly, the feel of it.
Yeah, that's nice.
Does that make sense? It's just perfect. I love it. I personally love it.
This isn't your, the mouse mat that you put a photo on top of and send to your mum, is it? This is the real deal. This is proper.
Like that. WWE style.
That's my future idea for the PC Gaming Boxing Champions. I'm actually in a semi-round with James Geekawat.
Okay, nice.
That's the prize.
Can I judge?
No.
Oh.
Carl's doing it.
Okay, that's good.
Sorry.
No, honestly,
yes,
really good.
The PC Centric mouse mat. It's available now. I'll tell you what, we use the overhead one more time. You want to lay that bad boy down. And look, this could be you. You could get your keyboard, perfect size. You can go slightly bigger actually than 10 keyless, and you would be perfect.
That's really nice.
Like, you've got loads of room. You can go full size if you want, but I think it's a dream to have like 10 keyless like that set up, bang.
Can I just quickly...
Link is down below.
Do the, this one. This setup is always nice.
Oh, you want... Sorry. Is that a thing?
It is.
Oh. I wouldn't have known.
Yeah. Anyway.
The confusion.
Yeah.
It's,
I looked at I had to look at the screen, and then I had to look back, and it's like, it doesn't look right.
Yeah.
Should we turn on the rig?
Let's do it.
I'll let you...
is everything plugged in?
Fairly sure. I'll let you sort everything out. We have power. We have display.
Yep.
We have keyboard and mouse.
Just to make sure we're going to see the display only.
Picture in picture.
Maybe we should see the display first in case like a login or anything.
No. It would just be the BIOS. We're good.
Are you going to give it the beans now?
I think this is right. Yeah, picture in picture is number 1. So okay. So if you'd like to push the button on the top, hopefully this is going to work.
Oh, are we ready?
Yeah.
Can I have a little countdown?
Oh, actually, before you do that, I should say the thing that we're trying to show is how to install Windows. So you need to get Windows. I'd go for 11. I actually love 11. When it launched, no. Love it now.
Okay.
Especially for HDR, so much better. Do you use Windows 11?
I'm still on 10.
Swap to 11, genuinely, much better.
Okay.
Promise.
Right, in terms of the HDR support?
Yeah, for you as a monitor reviewer, 100%.
Okay.
It's a game changer.
Literally.
It just works properly, how to expect. Anyway,
very nice. Okay,
download the ISO or the tool, if you like, and then you put this on a copy, put this on a USB flash drive, whack this in the back of your rig, and then you do what Chris is about to do.
3, 2, 1, and...
So we have some lights, which is always good. We don't have any RGB just yet.
That sounds good to me.
That doesn't necessarily mean anything, because as we've actually connected the RGB to the motherboard, quite often you'll find that the motherboard might have the RGB disabled, for instance. So until you've gone into the BIOS or something like that, it might not actually...
Everything seems to be running.
It does,
it's all good.
Oh, picture in picture needs to be on. There we go. So on the top right hand corner of your screen, you're going to see what we're looking at as well, which is whether we get a display.
Which is a blank screen right now.
It's all good. It's all good. I mean, we've got a red light, which is a bit ominous. Oh no, it's doing it. It's doing its thing. So we're looking for anything to come up. It should say new CPU installed, I think.
Yeah, you would expect that to happen.
Not happening yet, though.
Nothing's happening.
Why are you looking at me? I didn't build it.
Yeah, it's weird because usually it would just power on. And
yeah, no, sometimes it takes a bit of time, but the red lights down the bottom actually tell you what's going on.
Maybe.
So the only thing I could think of, if this doesn't work out the gate, would be that the RAM, it's trying to run it at...
Yes.
This is a ridiculous kit that no one should really buy. It's a 4600 megahertz DDR4 kit, which is very hard to get working on even a high-end motherboard, let alone this. As I say, it's just because I wanted to replicate if you bought a normal 3200 megahertz kit of RAM, which is what I'd recommend. But yeah, it's not doing anything yet, which is always good, isn't it? But that's okay. We can show you how to troubleshoot. So at the moment, we've got a red light down here at the bottom.
Oh, it's just changed.
Yeah, I need to have a look what it says.
You can actually see. How can you see what it says? It's
just the font is tiny. I need to.
Oh, as in like what it's.
Yeah, that's all good. Troubleshooting with PC Centric.
I think it's memory. I think it says mem.
Yeah, DRAM. So I think clearing the CMOS might fix it.
Okay.
But I think it's just because the kit of memory that we're using is just not appropriate at all. But as I say, that was kind of expected. I've seen this sort of thing before. I have a feeling it's probably just trying to run it at a speed that's too high,
right,
rather than the memory itself not being any good. So to clear the CMOS, it's very straightforward. Not as straightforward as there is a button, but you turn the whole thing off. Has to be off, I think. I mean, you don't want to be touching bits on your motherboard. If it's not, then you grab yourself like a flat screwdriver, or I find that the crosshead blue one, no, that's too big.
This one?
Yeah, I find this also works. So you're just trying to jump the clear CMOS pins, which are just above the power supply. Have you done this before?
I have. I had to do it. I think you guys actually helped me.
So you just connect these two pins, and that makes a circuit. And essentially, that just resets the motherboard to its factory state. So for about 5 seconds, make that connection. Then you can turn the whole thing back on again by flicking the switch, pressing the power button, and hopefully it will sort of, will cut off and it will turn itself on and then turn itself off immediately, and then power cycle. But this will be my first port of call, just to see if that makes any difference. If it doesn't, we'll just swap out the RAM to something else.
Yeah. Oh, light's gone off. Oh, there's another light now.
But if you...
yay, look.
Oh, there we go. Bang, you see? Just the CMOS. Always worth doing that. Very easy to panic.
Although now it's off again. So
yeah, that's
trying
fine.
To cycle it.
It will probably say new CPU installed. There we go, look. Ta-da. And I'm just mashing the delete key. This is the only thing that annoys me with this. If you go picture in picture, you can like picture in picture the same thing twice. That's a bit annoying. There we go. And we've now booted into Windows.
Love it.
As easy as that.
Look at that.
Comes up and says what would you like to install? PGM, please. And then you just click next. Install now. If you don't have a license key, you don't actually need one straight away either.
Okay.
You can buy one later. I don't officially condone the use of buying cheaper keys online. The official PC Centric stance is to buy the one from the Microsoft Store or retail, but obviously there are what we call grey keys out there that are available for a lower price.
Which are ones that I would recommend too.
Well, the reason they're grey is because you as the consumers, you're trying to buy a legitimate key.
Yeah.
This is never about buying something that's not legit. But they're grey because you never really know.
Yeah.
They say they are, but unless you can verify where they come from, and obviously you don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, something doesn't add up. If you like, sometimes you can see keys for $4.99, and it's like, well, that's clearly not legitimate.
Solid deal. That's what we want.
Bargain.
Bargain.
They're going to make their money off Bing anyway, so it's fine.
Bing.
The
official stance is to buy a key you know is 100% legitimate.
There you go.
But grey keys do exist for less money.
You should have typed in grey key.
And this is where you pick what OS you want. I would actually always install Home unless you know you're going to go Pro, because you can, if you then buy a Pro key online, then it still works. Because it will just update and say, okay, we're upgrading you to Pro. Whereas if you install Pro and then you buy a Home key, it will get upset and you have to redo it.
Which can be very annoying.
Yeah, so you just go through this. You say customized. Here we've got unallocated space on this drive. So we go new, hit apply. And this makes some partitions.
So what are the partitions used for?
So one actually has your bootloader on.
Okay.
BCD, I think it's called.
Okay.
And your BCD, if you have two drives, I've had it before where it's installed your bootloader on one drive and then your OS, all the physical files on the other, which means that if you take one drive out, nothing will work, which is quite annoying.
Yeah, okay,
so
that makes sense.
Essentially, when you load up your OS, it grabs the bootloader first. That's almost like redirecting you, so it's like, I don't know the right way. It's like a person in a car park.
Right.
I know the people in the National Trust that say, "Can I see your card, please, sir?"
Yeah.
That's so middle class, isn't it? National Trust card, please, sir. And then they send you into the car park and you park your car.
Yeah.
That's what the bootloader kind of does. It navigates your computer to the OS. That's quite a good analogy.
Very good explanation.
That is quite a good
I'm very
analogy.
proud of you. That's very good.
Oh, thanks. Camera 1. Let me just hit next, and that is literally it. And do you see how quickly those files copied?
NVMe speed.
That is very, very quick. That is
tray quick.
Quick drive. But that's it. And then Windows will then just install, and that's it.
That's great.
If you have any comments, guys, any questions, we are available for 1 more minute. No, we're available for 5 more minutes. So get your questions in now, because this is the happy point where we know it's working. Any questions, ideally, towards building a PC, that's the topic of this video, please, rather than specific parts, suggestions, only because we want to try and help out literally everyone.
Sure.
We do want to answer specific questions, but if it's too specific, then, you know, we've got limited time.
I can run through the donations quickly.
We got donations.
Ooh, yeah, wow. We've got one from Nomad Brad, which is just $4.99.
Oh, thank you so much. Nomad Brad was that?
Nomad Brad.
Thank you, Nomad Brad. I appreciate that.
We've got a $2 donation from Logan Hammy. A good CPU combination for a 3090 Ti.
3090 Ti.
Ooh.
You just go as high-end as you can, to be honest. As high-end as you can is going to be the way to go. I am actually now officially at the high-end recommending Ryzen. And I'll tell you why. It's because the price of the platform has come down enough that it's accessible enough. It's still expensive, but it's accessible enough. There's CPUs that are inexpensive enough, and there's so much upgradability there that I think long-term it does actually make sense. Whereas if you buy, let's say, you go all out, you buy one of these bad boys, which Carl's like, I didn't know you had that. The 13900KS, which is the best Intel CPU you can buy at the moment, this is dead on arrival in terms of upgradability. This is as good as it gets. So if you buy this, that's it, upgrade path, done,
GG.
As far as we know. Whereas if you buy the top end 3D V-Cache Ryzen 9 7950X3D, this is, you know, big boy baller CPU, but you know there's going to be probably 2, maybe even 3 generations more CPU that your motherboard should work with. So you can upgrade to this later, especially if you're going like mid-range. You buy a Ryzen 5 now. Next time, when you want to upgrade, you can either buy one of these used, or you can buy the then current chip and upgrade that. So, for example, my friend Oliver, he had, I think, a Ryzen 7, like one of the early ones. Then he upgraded that to like a 5 series or a 3 series from what he had. And then he upgraded that to a 5800X3D. So there's a lot of flexibility and upgradability there, as well you don't get that on Intel at the moment. At the lower end, like we are doing here though, I still think Intel's probably the way to go, because while you don't have an upgrade path in terms of new CPUs, you could literally buy one of these in 3 years' time. Probably not the right motherboard for it, mind you, but you can literally drop that in there in 3 years' time, and you have that upgradability path. You're buying a used part, what will be a fair bit cheaper. Don't rule that out. People say there's no upgradability on this. I find that a straight up lie. There's plenty. As long as you can go up somehow, it's worth doing.
So basically for the 390 Ti person, high-end CPU.
Ryzen 5, probably Ryzen 5 7600 would be fine, wouldn't it, for now?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you're buying a 3090 Ti though, you've probably got a fair bit of capital to spend.
True. To go as high-end as you can.
I would either get a Ryzen, 7600, or wait, and I think the CPU that everyone's going to want is the 7800X3D. Yeah. Because this is fine, but it doesn't really make sense because only 8 of these cores I think have the accelerated V-Cache anyway. Yeah. And the split. Yeah, and the 8 cores, the 8 extra cores aren't really useful for games. So you're better off buying the 7800X3D, which is an 8-core chip, all of which will support the V-Cache. You'll probably get better optimizations, and you're going to get the same sort of frame rate, which is pretty top draw.
Very nice. So,
detailed answer. Yeah. We got time. We're good.
Serious Geek.
We're good.
That's a good name. They just bought an X670 Crossbar Hero. I think it means Crosshair Hero.
Yeah.
A 7950X. Any recommendations of what vendor they should buy an RTX 4080 from?
Is this in the UK?
$5 US, so I'm guessing US.
Okay. It's hard to say, but I guess anywhere that's got good reviews, which even that is sometimes hard, because what a lot of people do is, you know, when you come across retailers that have got like 10,000 positives for reviews rather than someone else, it's just because every order they will say rate us on Trustpilot. That's it, Trustpilot. And if they don't ask that, then sometimes you won't get the same amount of people reviewing a place. Just somewhere that's trustworthy. It's hard to say really. I mean, Newegg is obviously the go-to. Best Buy, Amazon US.
Micro Center.
Links for everything featured, by the way, is linked down below for this, including the mouse mat, if you want to check out current price on these parts.
From Cryptic. They said, why not a 12400F instead?
Why are we using the 12400?
Yeah.
We don't have the F, we just have the 12. There wasn't any point us buying the F when performance is basically going to be the same between the F and the non-F. The only exception I'm hearing now is like the 13600 versus 13600K. There is actually performance difference, but when you're talking the F models, it's purely just the iGPU is the difference. So yeah, I would recommend you get the F.
We've literally just had a $10 donation from our favourite, Andy Martinez.
Hey.
Oh, thank you very much. That's much appreciated.
Thank you, Andy.
But yeah, thank you so much for you guys for tuning in. I hope this has been useful, and I hope that doing this live, especially if you're watching this on the archive, has shown that it is doable. You've seen we've cut nothing out of this. Yeah. We normally would. But actually this has gone really well. The biggest problem was Chris letting the slide down with an upside down fan.
Maybe I just wasn't a fan.
On that note.
On that note, yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Amazon affiliate links for everything are listed down below. Mouse mat as well. If you want to help out the channel, genuinely the best way to do it is to grab yourself a sick new pad. But thank you for watching. Check out all of the other builds on the channel. Get subscribed, like this video, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Bye.